hell you've been catching and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house.
The pay differential never seems to close, and the World Economic Forum found that if we continue at our current pace, it will take 100 years to close the global gender gap. So we literally cannot do that long.
They're not afraid of four musicians, they're afraid of you!
Welcome to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. For some reason, my face is this bloody big tonight. But either which way, welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all for joining us for another amazing episode. We are on episode 27, and I don't have two hands. 7. There you go. 277. And tonight we're going to be talking about the myth of unemployment laziness. And it's one of those things where as we go through these podcasts and we keep doing these things, we come up with new ideas and new things. And Hanna put together an actual spreadsheet for us to actually talk through the numbers as well as some of the different links and articles that go along with it. We're also going to be talking a little bit about the Michigan fraudulent voters who Trump seriously just thought was like the biggest thing in the world. But obviously, we're going to find out if anything came of that. We're going to talk about Rudy Giuliani and what happened to him. And we're going to talk a little bit about a segment from something that came from role-playing games. We'll get into that a little bit later. But essentially, we're going to have a conversation about keep gaming fantasy. Because to me, it feels like they're just saying keep America great again, but just for role-playing games. With that being said, let's bring Mr. Hanna into the mix. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing good, man. I got my inner nerd on with my spreadsheet action. So I don't know. It's just some fun stuff that just every once in a while something, I guess, picks your bubble enough to where you start sitting down and working on a segment. And I, with my life and the craziness with the two girls and being as young as they are, and how you kind of pass through that phase, you can actually spend some time kind of working on stuff here and there and playing some games and stuff. I'm not quite there yet. So once I get the girls to school and a little more self-sufficient, although I'll probably miss the fact that my daughters don't need me 24/7, absolute all day long, every day. But it's that change in life or whatever. So I don't know. This is just one of those topics with the unemployment thing that I've seen so many times. I said, well, what are the numbers? And so I had some fun with that. Now it just kind of took my mind off of some of the stuff, and I'm doing some really great reading. I don't know what's been going on, man. I just hit like 55 hours for the summer for audiobooks. I've just been like slamming from the library, just really enjoying that resource. It's been awesome.
Yeah, which is really nice because I think I'm not on, what did you say? How many books?
55 hours.
Yeah,
So I
55
think
hours.
I'm on my sixth book in the last 4 weeks.
Okay,
5 weeks, 4 weeks.
that probably beats me. I will say for the year I'm on probably 6 books. So I read I listen to audiobooks probably about I don't know, like an hour to 2 hours a day on average every day. The difference though is I have like 3 to 6 other podcasts I listen to on top of that. So when you work at home and there's nobody around, when meetings aren't going on, you just throw it up on the screen. So like I got 2 monitors and a third computer, and I just put it on one of them and let it play.
It's quiet enough that you can like hear it good enough and clear enough. Because that's the thing for me. It's like I run through my hearing aids, but like I shut the whole world down. So like it's interruption every 5 seconds. Interrupts the book, especially if it's
All right. I apologize for that. For some reason, my Discord literally just logged me out completely of my Discord. So
Well,
anyway,
the only thing I can hope is that nobody could see your password stuff that was just on the screen. I'm gonna have to go back and like
if I get
blur
logged out
that
a
or
second
something.
time, there you go. Then we know somebody has that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Twitch just has me as a spiraling couple of squares right now, so we'll see if I show back up into the picture at any point here.
Yeah, we can hear you. We just can't see you. It'll come back. Either which way, that was a fun endeavor. So
I feel like we have been doing this for a while.
so welcome everybody to Cellar Skeptics. We are officially moved to Twitch. If you have not yet, go ahead and subscribe to our Twitch. You'll get all of our live show notifications, as well as you will get our anytime we do extra content through Twitch, it will do that. Essentially, that is our new streaming platform that we are going to be using to begin with for a while now. So either which way, one of these days, Hannah will come back.
I don't know. You can hear me and see me, so I don't understand where I'm at. But one of those things. Maybe I should like shut my video off and then shut my video back on. No,
There
it's
you
not
go.
doing anything. Hey,
Yep,
what?
it came back.
What? There we
We
go.
got you now. All right. So, with that being said,
I'll start this.
yeah. With that being said, we got to talk a little bit about. So this weekend for me was really amazing. I played in an X-wing tournament. For X-wing Star Wars miniature ships. I also spent Thursday and Friday prepping for the tournament on top of the stuff I've been doing during the last couple of weeks. But that was essentially exactly what I spent most of Thursday night doing, and then all of Friday. So we went over to a buddy's house. We actually got to play in person, put little ships on the table. I got a new ship on Friday that looks really cool. It's a
You,
little
like, paint it or
squid-looking thing.
something?
Nope, it came like this. I don't paint. That's not my thing.
Ooh. I was curious. There's like miniatures. That's pretty big, man.
Yeah, this is an epic ship.
So is this like the kind of thing where like you have to like build up to be able to use some of the larger stuff, or is it kind of like pay to play where you can just kind of purchase the things that
you just
wanna
purchase.
use?
Yep, it's all you purchase. You get whatever you want. The difference is you do have to purchase quite a bit of the stuff if you want, depending on what faction. There's 7 factions. They all have different ships in them. And so like I play Separatists, and I run anywhere between 5 to 8 of the exact same ships, and so those are $20 a piece. And so if I want to run 8 of them, I got to spend $20 a piece on them. So other factions, though, you only have to buy 1 or 2 of each ship, or just 1 of each ship. So but it's a fun thing. They have a competitive scene, and so I spent Friday prepping for that live in person, and then I got to actually play in the tournament on Saturday, and it was all digital. The tournament officially right now, they're still all digital. So I could not play in person for the tournament, but they have an online application. So Saturday sucked anyway because it was raining. So really, it wasn't that big of a deal to have to just sit in front of your computer or stand in front of your computer the whole time, because I was gonna do nothing because it poured in Michigan. It poured so bad. So
It hit
bad.
hard here too. We did like these bursts. It was like fine, wet, and then just splash, and then dry, sort of. But I don't know, it just kept me. I wasn't feeling so hot last weekend, so I kind of. I took 2 naps, one on Saturday and one on Sunday, and it was necessary and it was amazing, and I recommend it to everyone. But
Wow.
it definitely helped out having like kind of a on and off rainy weekend just to kind of get me back up to speed. So my question for your Star Wars game that you got, is it like Eve Online where like you have like your ship and your faction, and like the previous game carries over into the new game, and you're like developing characters and like
No.
leveling stuff up, or is like each game is just like your set of tools and you start a new scenario? Because like that Eve Online thing, one of the things that I remembered is like there's like a 200,000 $1 where people have like whole communities and banking systems and all kinds of wild stuff. Like this thing, each game you play is an independent and standalone situation or confrontation.
Yes. Yep.
That's cool. That makes it a little more accessible for me because like I hear like these stories of, like people like it's 18 months in the making for this battle. I'm like, oh, no, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, no. It's definitely not that. They essentially it's mini battles that you play. They do some story stuff with it, but it's not like that. That's more of a role playing type game.
Cool. We'll talk about that kind of stuff later.
Yeah, and they actually have role playing type games for Star Wars. It's just I don't play those. I prefer more of the fantasy role playing games. Honestly, like, would it be fun to play the Star Wars? Yeah, if somebody had a group that did it, sure. I don't spend a lot of time, doing it. Honestly,
the ships and space fighting versus the lore.
Yeah, I mean, because like with it, you get essentially it's an hour and 15-minute game,
Yeah.
Whereas if you were to, and here I don't know, I can bring up maybe what it looks like if you want, but
I think
essentially
I saw a couple bits and pieces here and there, but
essentially what it does is and hold on, give me just a second and I'll bring it up. Okay, gotta bring it up higher than that. There it goes. All right. But essentially what it is it's a this is the digital platform for it. And what you do is you go in here and you can like spawn ships and then you put your obstacles down.
cool.
And I don't know, there's
so it's kind of like a 3-dimensional table that shows the graphics and things that you're doing, but it's digitized what you would see in real life if you were using like the game pieces and everything.
Yeah, essentially that's what it is. So like
cool.
Here's a list, and then I could be playing against this person's list here. And then what they do is you take them and you spawn the ships. It didn't like one of the ships that wanted to spawn. It didn't like any of the ships that wanted to spawn. Must be. Yeah, these are my older dial sets.
That's cool.
Yeah, see, it didn't like the ships I wanted to spawn. But essentially, that's what you do.
That's cool.
There you go. That's what one of the ships look like. So there's Darth Vader, and you have different powers, different things like that, and then essentially you get 200 points to build a list. You build your list, and then you put your ships on the table, and you fly them. And each of your ships have different maneuvers, and you have to outmaneuver and outshoot your opponent. And we'll put it this way: if you want to learn how to play X-Wing, you can join us over at Planning Phase Syndicate, and we run a beginner show essentially about Star Wars X-Wing. So there you go. So, and then I would come in here. There you go. Like there, I can move him. He moves a 5 straight. Now in real life, you have all these templates, and then the other people have ships, and then then you go, okay, well, are you in my arc? Are you not in my arc? Oh, you are. I'm going to roll dice. Vader is, if you're up close with Vader, he's really powerful. He gets 4 dice. If he has a lock on you, he gets to do all these things. So there you go. I rolled them. And you have like hit crits. So here I'm going to change this to an auto crit because of his ability and spend one of his force tokens. And there you go. There's 4 hits. And then the other people roll these green things called evade dice. And then they cancel out your hits or crits. Cool. So this person rolled Jack Poop, which is usually what my green dice do. So that ship is taking 2 hits and a crit. So,
That's cool. They're just like basically learning the system, kind of going through it. I don't know. It's just it's this kind of thing here would interest me more than like that Eve Online type thing. It's like the same thing that I have with the issues with like MMORPGs and stuff like that. It's just like a time investment to make it like, hey, if this is something that you're kind of sort of interested in, you can play a couple of games and have some fun. Versus like, okay, first we're gonna join the guild. You got to spend 97 hours grinding on swamp borgrats. Like, just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not. This isn't a part-time job. I'm not here to like begin in the storeroom and start cleaning the latrines. Like I'm here to to kind of relieve my life a little bit. Like the video gaming should be fun. So like some people like it's
I like
fine
those
if you want
things.
to, dude. If it's well, it's fine if you want to do the games that are just like we're talking like 3, 4, 500 hours and stuff like that. I just don't have the ability to do that, and so like I used to. I don't anymore. And so like these games like this would be a little more involved than what I usually would dive into, but I probably would like it because I'm guessing dice and die and numerology and the specificity of the mathematics in there. I would probably enjoy it, which is why in my free time I have fun making spreadsheets. Like, it just seems like it'd be a good fit.
Yep. And Panda123 in the chat said this is the nerdiest thing he's seen all week, or the second nerdiest thing. So there you go. I'm a nerd. I don't know what to tell you.
Unintentional. It was unintentional.
It is what it is. It's just kind of it's a fun thing that it's a fun thing that I get to do. And my one son kind of plays. My other sons are not really into it. So, or my daughters won't really play with me, but I have a group of friends, and I came from a different game, so, and this one is just the new replacement. Anyway, enough with that.
Happy.
Yeah, whatever. Enough of that. Let's move on to real stuff tonight. Real talk.
All right.
Real talk. Real talk with Chris and
not on
Hanna.
our friend.
Yeah. All right. So let's see here. Let's swap screens. All right, so the first topic we're going to talk about tonight is the GOP investigation into the fraud. Now, guess what? They found
nothing.
No fraud in Michigan. Nothing of any intention. So that's actually the key. Is there's nothing of intention, because they did find some misvotes. They found some issues with the ballots. They found some miscounts, but nothing that swung the election. There you go. A, and B, there was nothing that they did to make personal gain. And that's huge, right? Because how many months did we listen to it ahead of time that Trump said we're going to be seeing fraud, especially in Michigan? And then, look, that didn't happen. So, seems pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Don't know about you.
Well, we've got the Arizona results coming in, and everyone knows what kind of a CF that is. Will be, is going to be an absolute mess. It's nice to see that Michigan is coming through with some sensibility. It's not something that you always expect the Michigan legislation to do. I think a lot of people are realizing that it's not exactly the Trump derangement syndrome that a lot of people think it is. It's everybody's kind of coming off of this crazy high that, I mean, let's face it, the Trump administration was sugar. It was, it was crystal meth, whatever you want to call it. It was a serious short burn, which is exactly what Trump would be if you were considering any of his policies and all that kind of stuff. It's supercharge the economy, supercharge whatever, with little or no thought to what could happen in the short term and near term future, which is exactly what you would think if you were in a capitalistic endeavor trying to maximize your profits and then sell high, right? And so that's exactly what happened here. Is that Trump came in and tried to light the candle at both ends. Everything started on fire. Everybody's kind of coming down from that. We're seeing what a semi-centrist, partially progressive administration is just.
It's all centrist. Let's not lie. Come on.
I mean, it's just like we're seeing just government back in action, and everybody's kind of like getting over that, like whatever that was, like whoa. And we're even Republicans. I can't remember the guy's name. One of the GOP senators called Trump a loser president. this week. It's just, I think they're getting tired of them. In Ohio this weekend or last weekend, there was the big Trump rally, the first one he's done since January 6th, and there were a ton of conservative people that were on there. They were like, there's nothing different. He just went on stage and said the same stuff he has always said. There's no change. We want something, like what have we been waiting for? There's no difference from what he said, just like, and so the mainstream media just kind of bypassed it, which is not entirely unexpected, but I don't know. I think the GOP is doing its best to try to minimize its casualties, and it's of course putting its leaders like DeSantis and Matt Gaetz up front. I mean, so well, just in this case, is well done, Michigan, for just
Yeah. It is, and if we're not going to go through everything, they have the caucus room. You can go through the committee members. The big important thing here is really that this was not ran by a bunch of Democrats specifically, right? This was looked at. They talk about all the different things, and so like in the reality of everything, it's kind of funny because they're the ones that found people. Sorry, not people, but they found everybody not guilty. So I don't know.
basically.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like Michigan's legislature, the House and everything as far as the Congress is essentially Republican controlled. So these findings are by all the oversight committees looking into this by a GOP controlled government with a Democratic governor. So like if anything is going to come out that's going to find all of these cracks, it's going to be the governor's administration watching to see what happens. Like she wouldn't have any control over this. The Secretary of State essentially would have control over the election, but not over the oversight committees and stuff like that. So like this is all on the GOP, and they would have paraded it around if they would have found it, and they didn't find anything. And cheers to them for being honest. I mean, they're honest about it. I mean, they didn't say like we were wrong, but at least they said that we didn't find anything, which is nice.
Yeah, it just kind of helps make everything feel a little bit better. But let's move on from that. You had a segment you wanted to talk about tonight, about unemployment and people, and we know how a lot of people on the Trump campaign felt about unemployment. So I don't know, where do you want to start? You have a couple of links, one from Rocket HQ. You want to give a quick overview, Hannah?
You know what? Just like the links in there are basically just a way for me to back up the numbers and the information that I put into the spreadsheet that I have in here, and people can check the numbers. And if you want it, I'll even send you the spreadsheet. If you want to modify and adjust it, like we have a Google Sheets account set up that has the link, and we could, if you want to see a data, you can see the data that we used, and if you can make it better, I'm all for it. I spent a few hours on this, but this basically all the links that I had in here were links that basically were sites where people said these are the averages, these are the totals, these are some of the things that we had, and these are some of the things that we found when we were talking about unemployment. So the thing that I had heard so often is like, oh, unemployment, you're just sitting at home. Why get a job when you're just getting bankrolled, all this money coming in? And so I was like, well, is it true? Is it really true? And what's the best way I can essentially create kind of way to compare this? And so I just started creating a spreadsheet and looking into what the averages were and some of the information that I had. So Chris has it pulled up on the screen here, is the spreadsheet that I had. So the very top box portion of this has persons and dependents. So the way they break it up in Ohio, at least, is that you have a single person, and then one person with one or two dependents, then one person with 3 plus dependents, and then I had the last one was the average for the entire United States. And so the next one over was the yearly max income. What I wanted to do was I wanted to see what the maximum amount of money you could get inside these the partitions that they have in Ohio, and then look at the averages, and we can kind of compare from that. And if you see on the bottom, there's the states. I had the full list. You don't have to scroll down all the way, but there's the full list of all the states, and then the next one over is the average unemployment insurance EUI or UEI, and each state has an average payout, the average one that they do. And go to Oklahoma. Look at Oklahoma. It's just scroll down to just a little bit. Like
44. That's awful.
so you don't want to lose your job in Oklahoma. You may not be able to eat, live, or even afford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't that
That's
bad?
just crazy to me. Yeah.
That's
Like, are
nuts.
they the lowest one on here?
That was the lowest
they
one I
are.
could find. Yeah. Yeah. And so also this list includes the Virgin Islands. It includes Puerto Rico, and it includes the District of Columbia, which a lot of sites did not include, but screw it. I'm calling them. They are equivalent to states, in my opinion, and they deserve to be counted in this. And then each, I don't understand. Okay, well, stupidly, the next link over it, I put that in dollars, unfortunately, but those are all the number of weeks, not the. For some reason, in the Google Sheets, that translated over to dollars for some reason. But that's the number of weeks allowable. Yeah, just make it to a number. That's the number of weeks of unemployment insurance that you can get in that state. And so on average, it is 39 weeks. It's like 38 point some whatever change. And so that's just what it is. But the average unemployment insurance payment is that $300 essentially. And so what I wanted to do is up towards the top, you can see I broke it down into basically in Ohio, if you're a single person, your yearly max income is $886 a week, which is $46,000 a year. That's the limit. Like that's as high as you can be. And if you're making more, you don't get any more than this. You can get $443 a week as your payment. And then with dependents and you make up to this much, then you can get 537, blah, blah, blah. So the maximum amount of money you can get under unemployment in Ohio was $588 a week. And that's if you're making over $62,000 a year and you have 3 or more dependents. And so that's a decent amount of a weekly payment to help cover you for your unemployment. And the average apartment cost in this country is roughly $1,200. That's just across the board throughout the entire country.
Even with California included?
Everything. That's
wow.
$1,200 a month. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. What was it? 1,234.43. So $1,234.43. That includes the entire country, and that's in one of the links. And so I basically split that up. But in Ohio, it's roughly like $700, $750. And so that number can be adjusted. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to use this spreadsheet is at the very top at 308, you can change that number to make the average apartment cost. And these are all on a weekly basis. So everything is considered by week. And so you can make changes in here and see what's the average in your state. You can put that in there. And then the same thing with utilities. Now the utilities per week, you can see that one down if you look at the next box below. There's electric, natural gas, water, streaming, internet, trash recycling, your cell phone, and total utilities, and then break that down into 1/4 for a week. Just because I just assumed a 4-month week. And so like let's say you don't have streaming or you don't have internet or whatever. This is all modifiable. You can reduce your utilities. You can change your apartment cost. You can kind of put your numbers in. But on average, these are average numbers that I'm using on here. The very first, or the second box down, you see total income from EUI, and you can see, or UEI, and you can see 17,000, 20,000, 23,000, and 12,000. That's with the state's averages. And if you look at the fourth box down, if you are just getting the United States average, see, if you're getting the maximums, you're doing decent at $36 a week to stay alive. Well done. Keep at it. Or $177 to stay alive when you have 2 children, or maybe $269 if you have 3 or more dependents. So good luck with that. I'm pretty sure you can survive on that. Maybe. But like if you are just on the average, and this doesn't include the number of dependents that you may have. If you're making the average 307 and you have the expenses that I calculated in here as your costs, and those are all relatively decent prices for electric, natural gas, and everything. But on average, you're pretty much in the hole. if you're on unemployment, the average in the United States, minus $166 a week. So take away that 300. So the federal, there's the federal mandate basically to give an extra $300 a week is ending soon, but that boosts these numbers up to help these people that are getting the minimum, to get them to $280 or whatever dollars a week. And so that makes it to where you could live on that. And in some cases, that $719 a week for one person and 3 or more dependents is a decent number. But in the end, what you're looking at is without that federal $300 a week addition, the people on the average, so the majority of people in this country, if they're breaking even when this $300 ends, we're very surprised. And so they're
just right here. I mean, this right here. Here you go. And this is before taxes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to make sure. So
yeah, this is all before taxes too. Yeah.
So with that extra is $35,000. A $40,000 a year salary is $19.25 an hour. So a $35,000 a year salary is roughly $15 to $16 an hour. Right? Think about that. Think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like the boost that you're looking at here is with the 300 that actually brings people into the range of what we've been talking about a sustainable life. And in some of these cases, that federal 300 that puts them at or above what they would have made if they would have been continuing to work in their $30,000 job. So the question is, if Jeff Bezos and if Warren Buffett and all these names that you always hear about, if there's a loophole that they can exploit so they can reduce the amount of money they have to pay at the end of the year in their taxes, and they use that loophole, as Trump can be directly quoted saying, they're smart. It's a smart thing to do, not pay your taxes, to go through that system. But if someone who is unemployed via a pandemic of horrible proportions, or via just normal unemployment, like it doesn't have to be a global catastrophe to justify unemployment, and they're unemployed and they've been working, it's proved that they've been working, they qualify for unemployment, do those people deserve this extra $300 or whatever? And now they're making what they would have made, if not more than they would have made in their stressful 40-hour a week or whatever job. Those jobs aren't easy that we're talking about when it comes to the less than $15 an hour jobs. And so like they're taking advantage of something as long as they can.
Yeah.
And then they'll go back to the workforce. And
so
maybe it's difficult, but like this is the thing where there's a potential with them. Maybe they're making a little bit more money. Maybe they're getting a little bit or something, and they're taking advantage of that. I don't see that as a bad thing, but it isn't a pile of money like a lot of people on Fox Radio and conservative radio are saying, that they're just getting paid boatloads.
So I think that's a good point, right? Okay, so there we go. There's kind of the point is the big point is the fact that it's not a lot of money specifically. So they're not putting money to their bottom line. In a business, that's how we would talk about it. How do I put money to my bottom line after expenses? That's how I would look at it. I want to know what my cash flow is, what my EBITDA is, all of that. So these people are not doing that. And just in your daily lives, like I could tell you right now, if you pay me $35,000 a year, I'm only going to be so motivated because I can barely live. I'm not putting money away for my future. I'm not able to pay for health insurance. I'm not able to do all these other things. And so, while I agree 100% with anybody taking advantage of what needs to be taken advantage of right now, what I disagree with a little bit with you is kind of the analogy of that they're taking advantage of things, because I don't see that. I see this specifically. I see this as them reaching out and saying, hey, when are you going to pay us a fair wage? When do we get that? When are we going to get this? That's what we want. We want a fair wage. We want real money. And we could talk about the Jeff Bezos. What is it? Here, let's Google it. What is his fucking net worth right now? Here we go. We're going to Google this because
I don't know, his wife took a whole bunch of it, but last I heard it was 150 billion.
Jeff Bezos. It comes up right here. 196 billion.
Oh,
He's going to cross that 200 billion threshold. Now,
yeah.
you tell me how long at $35,000 a year is it going to take to bring $200 billion into net worth? And that's net worth, not gross worth. That's his net worth.
What was it? 35,000.
$35,000. Yep.
Yeah. I have here 5,714,000 years to 285.
So now, I am a strong opponent
Yeah.
of capitalism personally. But if we want to talk about what can make things, how do we make things better? Can we make America great again?
Yeah.
We should be going, hey, dude, not only could you fund healthcare for every single person, you could probably fund a stimulus check to every person every year to at least move them over that threshold. And maybe that's what we'll do next week. I don't know. We'll have to see because it's a holiday. But maybe next week we should cover inflation and what happens when we raise wages. Because the myth is that you're going to raise wages and all these companies are going to raise the cost of things. That's not true. That is false. That is not actually what happens when you properly raise wages. Inflation doesn't just go through the fucking roof. I guess I'm going to have to turn the F word, thing on now. Now you got me passionate, Hannah. You got me passionate.
This is one of those topics that you hear people like maybe the semantics of what I was saying of like people taking advantage of it, but that's not the intention. It's essentially what it is like if you give somebody a thing and they can say it and they can use it and it's more money than they would have made if they were working, and they take that money, they take that resource and they use it. And then they use it until the end, and then they have to go back to the workforce or whatever. Like that's like saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you $50 this week and $50 next week, or you can go back to work and make 25 next week." Like you're going to be like, "Why would I not take your $50 next week and then go back to work the next week after that?" Like it's not a negative thing that there's a resource that is there and people utilize it as long as they can, and then when they go back to the workforce, whatever, making less money, they utilize that. It's one of those things that like we like the analogy that I use, like people that may have a lot of money, they pay people lots of money so that they get the most amount of money they can back, and that everybody thinks of that as a good thing. And but like when people have a chance to get as much money as they can, but they're in the lower income brackets and they're in the service industry, and they're like, well, no, I don't want to work for pennies on the dollar. I'm gonna take as much as I can, and I'm gonna make as much as I can for my family and all that kind of stuff. That's not a bad psychology or perspective. It's using what you can in the current environment with this dog eat dog capitalistic environment where you do what you can to make your buck, right? You got to hustle. That's the world we've created where everybody is like fighting and attacking each other. It's not the same kind of thing as like if we were talking about doing something. It's one of the things about some of the stuff that I've been reading and learning about a ton lately. The modern monetary theory talks about the Jeff Bezos scenario and using his money and all that kind of stuff. And it's something that we'll talk about in the future. I'm super, super excited to talk more about it as I learn more. It'll be a lot of fun to talk about some of these things because there's like some really cool financial theories as to how and why and what we can do with distributing money in the financial systems that we use. And so like hopefully from the stuff that I'm learning now and the stuff that some of the people in the government have been using to be leaders in the new financial world, they'll be using new tools instead of the old tools that make everybody attack and fight for money, and start creating a way for people that in the unemployment area of our economy, that they're not like these villains and these mooches and these scapegoats that we love to just throw under the bus, when most of these people really are trying their absolute best to keep everything together, trying to keep their house, trying to keep their apartment, trying to keep their car, trying to like stay away from the downward spiral that once you lose your method of mobility, you lose one thing, and it's just a cycle, and the machine will get you, and it'll grind you up. And it seems like a lot of people who have middle class and upper middle class have a lifeline that they can grab onto, and that doesn't exist for a lot of other people. And this one unemployment thing is a boost and a specialty that's helping them for a short period of time, half a year or a little bit more. Unless you're in Oklahoma, then they just don't care about you at all.
Yeah. And I can't believe that. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Here's what is that? $160 a month. Good luck.
Yeah. Like that's not even logical in the aspect of like paying for anything. The sad thing is that out of your bills, you know what that pays? Nothing. Like that doesn't pay any of your bills. That's the
Pays your
problem.
streaming maybe. And Netflix and some
Not mine.
Hulu. Yeah, no. You stream way more than I do. I have Netflix and Hulu, but I have like the budget Hulu that still has commercials, which sucks.
Well, I
It's
don't
cheap.
have that. I will admit I do not have the budget Hulu. Um, but I don't own as many streaming services as a lot of people. I
Yeah.
do Hulu and Netflix. I get HBO for free because of AT&T, and because when I traveled, I had to have an unlimited plan. And now I can't go back and you can go from unlimited to 6 gigs. That's it. Nothing else. Now, when we were at home, I probably should have just done that because you're at home. You don't you don't need data. But either which way. I mean, my wife was
addiction, man.
well, my wife
Eat it in my
exercised
veins.
outside of the house. So like it was one of those things when she goes for a walk, she wants to be able to not have to worry about the data. And if she gets lost, she wants to be able to make a phone call and not have to worry about data, and she just wants all those. You kind of had to pay for it, which was fine. I mean, again,
These are all those things in that utilities area where they're modifiable. Like you can remove certain things from your bills and you can adjust your budget. And that's one of the other things about this spreadsheet is like it can be used to like kind of look at all those costs. You can reduce those things. A lot of those things are luxuries. You don't need some of that stuff. But we talk about internet connectivity. If you don't have the internet, how do you apply for your jobs? Almost all jobs now have some
yep,
kind of online proponent. Like there are all kinds of things that downward spiral. You lose your chance of mobility. You can't get to the appointment. You can't get to the interviews. You lose your cell phone. They can't connect you. I mean, it's insane how difficult it can be when you lose a couple of those resources. And so, like this, it's expensive to be poor. It really
yeah.
is.
It is, and we're gonna move from this topic in a second, just because I'm frustrated, and I know what's
I
gonna
know.
happen is I'm gonna get really, really angry in a minute.
Yeah.
But that people don't understand when we talk about socialism. It's like I'm not technically a socialist, except for the fact that we don't do these things in America. If we did things to help people, we did all these things to actually genuinely move humanity forward, right? There you go. We could do those
Yeah.
things if we supported people. And you know what? You want to pay a low wage? Let's give free healthcare. Let's give free time off. Let's give all these other things. And let's tax people. Because I'm telling you right now, when an individual owns more money than you could spend in 5 million lifetimes on $15 an hour, there's a problem with that. Just saying.
Three families own more than 50% of the wealth in this entire country.
Yeah,
Three
and
families.
last week we talked about the GDP, right? We talked about that. We had a conversation about deficits and all this other stuff. And it's like, oh no, if you think about it, all this money, all this wealth that we're like, oh, it's okay. Last week we talked about how it's okay to have a deficit and things like that because technically our national wealth. Well, when that gets boiled down into three families for, that type of thing, then you go, well, who owns us? Who owns our country? It ain't the Democrats, I'll tell you that. Like, you can complain about the Democrats all you want, and I will, to a fault, complain about them. But they don't own us. The Republicans don't own us. Jeff Bezos,
Well,
Bill
Bezos plays
Gates.
both sides. Like, he owns WAPO, right?
Yeah.
Like, the Trump used to rail against that progressive right, but also Bezos is one of the number one leading donors to the Republican Party. Like, when you're
Yeah.
super rich, you can donate to both sides of the party, and that's when these weird things about the Illuminati and the lizard people and Epstein's Island and all that creepy stuff comes out of here. Because there's people that are operating outside of the standard rule of law, as Christopher Hitchens loved to write in his Vanity Fair report on the Banana Republic. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago he wrote that about the fact that the United States has a banana republic, essentially 2 tiers of legal system. It's not entirely wrong. So I don't know. We'll see what happens in the near future as far as any kind of financial redistribution. But I just thought that this was a cool thing to talk about because if anything, it'll give anyone here who has been listening tonight a couple of tools to say, hey, if you're getting the average return for your unemployment insurance, and you don't, and when the $300 federal assistance boost ends, you will be losing over $100 a week if you are on the average and you have what I would consider an average utility bill. So it's not this free lunch, as everyone on Fox Radio loves to say. So that's important to know, and to have a resource and some information to kind of put in people's faces is nice.
Awesome. So why don't we switch over to our answering conservative question? Yeah, well, welcome back. So tonight the question that came to us was, if China invades Taiwan, should the US join the war to protect Taiwan? Now, that's a pretty open-ended question, right, Hannah? I mean, like that's pretty open-ended. I don't know. It does not come from an ultra conservative. They call themselves essentially like a center leftist. And they want to know why we should or should not support the war from China to Taiwan. Now, in my opinion, here, we do not support war, period, in any way, shape, or form. Now, what I can tell you is that China has been the largest benefactor of COVID from the US, period, hands down. They have been. And I say this a little bit facetiously, but in the reality, we are importing more stuff from China now, no matter what the tariffs are. And the funny thing is, the tariffs, and this is the industry I work in. The tariffs are hitting our US companies more than they're hitting the Chinese companies. We are punishing our own people. Trump punished our own people versus the other thing. There was no deterrent. People continue to import at record rates. We are at a container shortage right now. Right now. Container costs. And I don't know, I don't know if we had this conversation, but Hannah, how much do you think the average container, we'll just say 40-foot container to move from China, from Shanghai to Chicago, how much do you think that costed before COVID?
I say $5,000 for the machine. Like, are we talking like by weight, or I say like just the cost of the box itself? Maybe $5,000 per unit, not including the value of the stuff inside.
Yeah, don't worry about the value of the stuff inside. Just the transportation costs.
$5,000 per box.
Okay,
I have no idea.
So $3,000 tops.
Okay,
sometimes closer to 2.5.
Okay.
It depends on where you were trucking it to. You would add anywhere between $600 and $2,000 depending on where it's going, right? Okay. So you're not really that far off. COVID saw containers rise to $7,000 to $9,000. Guess what? Guess how much containers are going for right now? If you were to tell me you want to import a container full of Hannah's new board game, the Dribble Blocks, how unemployment is not affecting your life.
$15,000 just for the box, not including what's inside.
Yep, that's actually really good. That's almost dead on.
That's terrible. So like, what's the reason why it's increased almost?
Capitalism. It's capitalism. It's shortage. It's a shortage. There's a shortage of. So if let's say we import on average, I don't know, $1.5 trillion, right, of goods, and all of a sudden that goes up to $2 trillion, and there's no more containers. No. Just the good value, right? Just our base good value. So if we import 1.5 trillion and our goods, we're importing that much more that we're ordering another $500 billion worth of goods into the United States.
Is it the same amount of stuff?
No,
or is the price
it's more.
Really?
you're getting more. We're buying more stuff. We've seen purchase increases of goods out of China that have gone upwards of 25 to 45%.
Really?
Yes, it's insane.
So
Depending
we're
on what company.
asking for more, and we have tariffs that are
Yes.
increasing the cost.
Yeah.
More.
I-
And the Biden administration has not removed
Any of them.
all of the tariffs.
No, they haven't. They've done shit about it. Now, hold on, though.
So okay.
It's not the tariffs that make that container cost go higher. That 15 grand you said, that's the ocean freight cost to move it from Shanghai to Chicago.
That's literally just the transportation
That's
cost.
just the transportation cost.
That the tariffs
You have
would be
tariffs
on
on
the
top of
company-
it.
The tariffs would be the company either in
Your
China
importer of
sending it
record.
over,
Yep. Nope.
or receiver.
It's-
Because sometimes the companies
Yes.
have a deal where you take
Nope.
the tariffs and
In America, our ecoterms, you have to be very careful. Ecoterms are based on, so that's what they call them. They're called ecoterms, and they're based on the type of product, and the regulations the federal government. And now we're getting real deep.
Yeah, we got called nerdy earlier.
Yeah, this is what I do for a living. So,
in the end, though, like they're the tariffs can be bounced around, it can be moved around, or whatever. But like, just the cost to get the box to the U.S. is 15.
It's about 15 grand right now. Yeah. Yep. That's what we're seeing on average out of China. But it's because there is some employee shortages because of COVID. There is that, right? It's not all just container shortages. But we have a container shortages and we have shipping shortages. So we don't have enough vessels to throw shit on to ship it.
And you don't have enough boxes because people are making houses out of those boxes now.
No, that's not why. But that's a good idea, though. Except for now, you do not want to buy one of those right now. Do not do that.
All I know is that there's a couple of Airbnbs that my wife has been looking at. She's like, we should stay in this container tree fort house thing. And I'm like, I don't know if there's COVID in that box. I don't know. It's just one of those things those like container houses are like the all the rage right now. So,
well, before it was a prepper thing, right? Before originally preppers used them and they like half buried them in the backyards because they are really good airtight boxes to some extent that you can store things in. And like I actually had a friend that was gonna buy a container and bury it in his backyard and build like a little like bunker hole to go down into it. And I was like, in case the apocalypse happened,
My buddy took one of the diesel reefer motors off of there. So the refrigeration systems are on little diesel motors, and he put one on a golf cart and it goes like 50 miles an hour. It's crazy. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Anyway, so let's all go back to this. So the reason we don't have to worry about this is because China's GDP is so tied into America's, it's not even funny, especially right now. Them threatening to go to war with Taiwan is kind of a silly thing. And I can tell you right now because we import out of Taiwan as well. And the bigger thing China's got to worry about is if their manufacturing facilities leave Taiwan or leave China and move to Taiwan. That happens, right? And you want to know what the Trump tariffs did? You don't want to know what businesses did? They took their business and went to countries there was no tariffs with, and they moved their manufacturing facilities. So India, hotspot. Oof, holy crap. We're importing more stuff from India than we ever have since I've worked in this industry, and I've been in this industry for 12 years. So, they've there's more stuff coming in from India than you can even imagine. And it's because there's no tariffs, right? And what they used to do is they used to send this is hilarious. They used to send things in, and if you did small modifications to it, so let's say you didn't have a screw or you didn't have something you needed to put on it or a label, you can ship it into another country that didn't have the tariffs against you, modify it, and then ship it to the U.S. and you could avoid tariffs. Trump kind of put it into some of that. He did put it into some of that, so they can't do that in the same way anymore. But the big deal, the huge deal with that whole thing is really the fact that China is not going to go to war with Taiwan. Now, if they did, do we support them? No. But we are going to have to because of the amount of shit we still import out of China. So they're going to fight and cave in to the Chinese demands because of the fact that we are so tied to their economy, it's not even funny. So my answer is no, we don't support them. But capitalists are going to do it, and Democrats will support it because they have to, because it's a financial. It'll be a financial upset to stop the importation of goods from China. It'll go crazy.
Yeah. So speaking purely on philosophical terms on this situation, the United States does not go to war with China, but also the United States starts to create a global coalition to hold China accountable for all of the things that it doesn't do when it comes to UN rulings, when it comes to the global infrastructure of China behaving with respect. China is the number one carbon contributor in the entire world now. There's a variety of things that the whole world is really paying attention to that China is just not holding up its end of the bargain to. The problem is that the United States is the only country who does worse. So we have to talk about the United States and the UN all ratifying, a whole bunch of really, really important things that come to human rights abuses and so is that. But the United States won't change their perspective because of things like the Israeli connections and stuff like that. So like the U.S. has to get over some of its difficulties with basically being able to say no to some of its, its BFFs. And it has to work with the entire global community to create a coalition to say, China, we know you want to be a big team player. We know you want to be a big block player, and you want to be, if not, they want to surpass the United States. And a lot of people say it's inevitable. The question is whether or not the United States can maneuver enough things into place to create a coalition to kind of create a barrier between China and the rest of the world so that we can skip this superpower battle that is brewing essentially. And so my perspective on this would be that the United States shouldn't go to war with China. Obviously, I mean, there's no way they would be able to anyways because of all the things that you mentioned in the interlaced economy. But in the end, this is a situation where Taiwan really does need to be protected. The same thing we are watching with Hong Kong right now is that absolutely vibrant, democratic, lively, amazing city is just essentially being destroyed. And we're watching it happen. And there will be history books written about this time period, about the Chinese assimilation and destruction of one of the most vibrant and powerful and unique cities in the entire world. It's going to be completely and utterly devastated and destroyed. It will never exist as it once was. And the same thing could happen to Taiwan. And the United States is standing by and alone and not working with the rest of the world trying to create something. It's like the same kind of thing can happen with Taiwan, and we could lose, a lot of the really unique things that they have there. It's because the U.S. is trying to use power and strength and, whatever it is. Like, we really do need to create this global community, and that could help deal with this problem. And it's just unfortunate to see those kind of things happen. And so, like, if it ever happened, that would be the reason why we wouldn't go to wars, because we can't. But we also, we should protect Taiwan just as much as we should be protecting Hong Kong. But I don't think we have it in us to create enough of a coalition and commiserate and compromise with the rest of the world to try to make it work.
Yep, fair enough. Lyra Birds in the chat says they wish we could work with China on moving manufacturing to space. Our economies are probably the only two capable of doing it effectively and quickly. And that's like super true. Like, it is insane.
Manufacturing to where?
To space. Like, we could automate things. And again, now we're going to get into a whole nother thing. And you know what we really should be doing? Another episode on Roscoe's Basculus, because I love that topic. I love when we did that episode. But we're gonna that was episode 99, by the way, folks. If you want to go way back in history, that was episode 99. It's actually our most popular episode on YouTube. Seriously, like every other episode, nobody cares. But Roscoe's Basculus, I get at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. Yeah, whatever. I don't give a shit. Okay.
Roscoe's. What was the cartoon? Roscoe's
Modern Life.
Modern Life. Either way, yeah. Roscoe's. Now you got me saying it.
Yeah.
Roscoe's Basculus.
Yeah, Roscoe's.
Yeah. So that was yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna move
But
past
like
that. But if you want,
manufacturing is something that we definitely can talk about when it comes to the blending and the things, because like that's basically where I work, and I work in an international manufacturing company, and so I see a lot of this stuff. Like we ship a lot of things to Pakistan, a lot of places like that. So like, if that's something that everybody would like to talk about, in the comments in their chat, just mention it, and maybe I can do some research and look into some of the manufacturing aspects of these kinds of conversations.
all right. So we're gonna shift gears and we're gonna move to our last segment. Keep gaming fantasy. So, keep gaming fantasy. And you asked me, is this from Brian?
Is this
don't
Brian?
know. No,
Really?
maybe. I don't know who's Brian. Who Brian are you talking about?
Brian Fields. Do you remember Brian?
Okay. Yep, I know who he is. Yep. So
he's
the
been
answer is
talking about
no.
it. Yeah.
But
Okay.
if he's been talking about it,
Yeah.
then it comes up. The reason it shows up in my feeds is because of the my feeds show RPG type stuff, board game type stuff. So this is coming up because of this. And I'm gonna switch up our thing here. Let's see. I wonder if I can add another audio source. I wonder if I can get the audio for this to come in. We're gonna test something because I've not done this yet.
So basically, the whole thing on this is the basically being all inclusive into all of the D&D lore and tabletop gaming and stuff, right?
Yeah. Essentially, this is gonna be that. So I'm gonna test something because he said, okay. So yeah, you want a little history? There you go. I'm sorry. I should probably give you a history lesson
Just
on what it is. So
warm us up before the.
So what happened is back in the day, D&D was created by a couple of people, right? But essentially D&D started by a company called TSR Games way back in the day. This is like late 70s, early 80s. It was done by a guy, Ernest, and his father Gary, and a couple other people, right? And this was like back when paper was a thing, D&D paper and all of that was a thing, and they would mail things out and you would play it and it would be kind of a cool thing. The thing here, though, is that Gary has passed on. They had a bunch of issues because of Satanic Panic, right? In 97, Wizards of the Coast bought out the TSR company, essentially, and the branding rights. They ran it for quite a while, and then they eventually stopped renewing the trademark to TSR. And TSR, I should probably look up what TSR actually means. It's table fudge. I cannot remember the actual
table seems like a natural place for it to go.
Hold on, now you're making me Google shit.
Just do it on screen, man. We got this fancy ass new setup with all these fancy ass Discord buttons and everything.
So TSR, let's see, can we actually find a definition? There has to be a definition in here. Is table statistics something or other?
Yeah.
Good luck. Thanks, Anna. Not look like an idiot.
Yeah. So, anyways, what's the controversy here? So, what are these guys doing that's causing trouble?
All right. So the issues that they have is they're essentially they were one of the original people that created it. In 2020, Ernie, the son of Gary, essentially what he did is created a new company and re-trademarked TSR Games and is now trying to produce stuff. Last week or the week before, he came out as anti-trans, essentially, and anti-social justice, and on Twitter, as well as in an interview, which I will not play. We are not going to listen to the interview because who wants to watch an old white guy be homophobic and transphobic all at one time?
Yeah.
Not me. We're going to pass on that. But essentially, he did this, and his company, which, by the way, is linked with a Wisconsin Republican Trumpite who ran for the Senate. And essentially this guy.
Dude, I smell incels like.
Oh, it is.
Mad
You
right
have no
now.
idea. And that's what I want to talk about is the incels inside of the gaming community, because I didn't grow up like this, right? You know, like, I mean, I grew up with, because I grew up very conservative, you know, like my parents were very anti-gay. They didn't even know what trans was in the 90s, right? You know, like that was ingrained into me. And part of the reason I left religion and started questioning everything was because I had a friend who was bisexual, and it was this whole thing. And it's like, so for me, none of that made sense. So like my role-playing days, you were whatever you were. If you were a girl, you were a girl. And you didn't complain. Like, we never actually said, well, I don't want to be a girl. Like, we didn't say that. Who cares? Hey, who's the most powerful? Oh, that she is? Good. I'm golden.
Okay.
Give it to me. All I care about is winning. I don't care about any of this other shit.
World of Warcraft guys, or all of the EverQuest online guys, like, I'm gonna play as a chick, she's hot. Like, dude, you're playing as a girl all day long. That's your avatar. Like, you know, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like people play across their own identities all of the time. But like when someone wants representation and wants to be represented in a game, like actually the way they feel, why does that bug anyone else? Like, it doesn't even make any sense
I don't
to
know.
me. Why
So-
just saying like this is me and I want to be in the game too.
Yep. So what happened is, and we're gonna, if this video will play the audio, I'll be amazed. I have no idea if it's gonna do it because I did not test this before we went live. But,
So this guy is in a bathroom with a bathrobe and a phone.
yeah, he's doing a TikTok, man. It's something you should probably get involved in. But
The TikToks.
you're gonna get in TikTok. Anyways,
I don't
hold on.
anything.
So Keep Gaming Fantasy is what Ernie's company started. So TSR Gaming decided they're going to start a hashtag called Keep Gaming Fantasy, essentially saying that we'll separate your gender identity and your sexual identity from gaming because we don't want to have to deal with it or understand it. Now here, if this guy sings or this guy talks, we're going to hear what he has to say.
Hi everybody, I'm back. Public service announcement. Fuck the TSR. Old ass snow possums. Enemies of the fucking sun. You melon deficient pieces of drywall. You not so silent majority having ass motherfuckers. You fucking chalk demons. You're like Greek yogurt tried to be people. Fucking sugarcane snatchers. You spoiled milk minions. You fucking plantation Barbies. You fucking lice lieutenants. Just evolution's biggest mistake. You boring pieces of colorless cardboard. You're a bunch of Parmesan parasites. Y'all look like fecal mice. Or, I'm sorry, fecal lice. Oh, fuck it. You're a bunch of dried out glue sticks. You all look like you enjoy sundown towns. You all look like the person who would say, oh man, salt's too spicy for me. You all look like you bathe in rice water. Bunch of cum-stained colonizers. You all look like walking dandruff. You all look like you don't wash your ass. How dare you breathe air. Trans rights and happy pride.
All right. So I'm glad it stopped. I'm going to mute that a minute just in case
That
another
was
video
beautiful.
plays.
That
So
was beautiful, and I hadn't heard that before, and it made me happy all over my parts.
that's why I wanted to play that to begin with, but I didn't know if it would play. So what's happening is, come on, reload all these tweets. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go, company. Come on, Twitter. So people are literally going crazy because here's TSR, right? And he's saying people are blaming us the genius origins of the role playing in the Midwest United States, specifically Wisconsin and Minnesota, by the hands of, yes, largely young suburban nerds, is like blaming the tuba for being too German. Whoa, man! Like, what does that mean? First off,
Wow.
why is the tuba German? Like, is this a Nazi thing? Is that what the fuck this is? Are we doing a Nazi? Are you trying to make tubas Nazi? Like, do we need to start a hashtag that says tubas are Nazis?
The only thing I can think of is that like he's trying to say like, oh, they're trying to cancel culture us. So like if you say anything white power or Nazi power, immediately get canceled because those things should be canceled and they should be shut off the internet because those things suck and they're terrible and they're offensive to just humans. in general. And that's the kind of thing that someone says who's thinking about, wow, why are they aggressively attacking my German white privilege, whatever. And it's like, it just makes it feel gross. And those are not the kind of things that you should say if you're trying to be more inclusive and say, hey, we realize that we didn't have something for everyone, and we're going to try to be better. Or, hey, these are all these cool things that we're going to do now because everyone let us know that they wanted to make changes. Instead, they're taking a confrontational approach and apparently blaming tubas.
Yeah. And this brings it up. TSR Gaming, and we're going to flip over them. They essentially said, hey, don't blame us. We're all inclusive. We don't believe in this. What are you talking about? They're crazy. These people are insane. Right. They're now creating YouTube videos about why it's a lie. Why this is a lie. Like, and I'm sitting here going, like, this is seriously like some deflection shit. This is like some Trump-bound like reflection shit.
Oh, this is here, money. This is
in today's hyper-polarized culture, we have a firm commitment to keeping gaming fantasy. We invite you to escape with us. And it's like, whoa, right.
Okay, so you're inclusive, is that but I want to be completely and totally a woman with all of my bits and pieces completely changed. Is that okay? You know what I mean? Like, I just, like, what's the fantasy we're talking about here? Is the fact that people want representation? I don't understand keeping gaming fantasy. Like, people are asking for a representation of a thing, and you're saying, no, keep it fantasy. That's my fantasy. What I've said, I want that.
Yeah.
Can you give me that?
Yeah. So here you go. So here's this is actually a better breakdown. I'm not going to play this video. Do not worry. We are not going to play this trash on our show. I am not going to buy into that in any way, shape, or form at all. I'll tell you what. I try to listen to this. This guy is such an awful like he's wearing a Hawaiian D&D shirt. Just so you know, when you watch this, you're going to see a guy in a Hawaiian D&D shirt. I'm dead serious. So Hannah, that's your punishment tomorrow. You have to watch that. That's your masochist thing.
I'll get syphilis just from watching it.
Yeah, I mean, just look. Anyway, okay, we're gonna move on. I don't want to
either way, so this
shame him too much.
So his dad was cool and created the thing.
No,
he's just a gross guy. Or was his
no? His dad is not that cool. Let's just be honest. But his dad's from the 70s and 80s, right? So we're not going to get into the backstory of that. Because that's a big termite.
This might be like a nature versus nurture thing here. Like, he may have been nurtured into this gross person, and Gary may be a gross person too. But in the end,
I think that's probably highly true. I do.
This is a physical manifestation of a gross guy who everyone's having a problem with, and he obviously isn't handling being called out well.
Yep. And so we skip through a lot of this, and they essentially, if you want to read about this is their history, that's what this is. This is the history. This is how he failed at doing what he was doing to restart his company. So this gentleman, a master of unresolved contradictions, essentially says, look, I have a PhD in LGBT representation in fantasy literature, which I didn't know existed as a doctorate. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm writing it down because that might be what I might go for that degree. Like, that sounds like an amazing fucking degree. like yes, that sounds awesome.
The fact that his tag is Queer Steve IRL. Well, we should maybe try to talk to this guy because he sounds like he's pretty smart.
Yeah, exactly. Now, he starts off by saying the phrase keep gaming fantasy suggests to begin with that fantasies are connected to reality. And it's a plea to separate fantasy play from the real and everyday entirely, and to inhabit space that's entirely different and without any such mundane concerns. This is not what fantasy is. Yeah. Period. It's not. Fantasy is an imaginable space, and that is separate from and also intrinsically and inseparably linked to real life. Hence, Look at Star Wars. It embodies a religious tint. It does. You have good versus evil. You have good failing, falling, becoming good again. Whoop. You have all sorts of. I just hit my water pipe. that was a warm water pipe. Anyway, you have all these different avenues that is going that Star Wars goes down, right? And the idea here is that most fantasy is somehow involved in some way, shape, or form with your everyday life. It just is. Now, he also says, if we already have concepts of leaders, warriors, good, evil, magic, wisdom, life, and death, fantasy lets us explore and reinterpret those things, reimagine these things, and have fun with them. What it does not do and cannot do is let us escape from them. Because how do you create a fantasy? And this is, now we're getting into meta shit, but how do you create a fantasy when you have nothing to play with? And hence that goes back to the God argument where we say, how does something come from nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like God, how did God exist? How did he get there? Well, somehow he's this physical being. And I've had these arguments with fucking, Christian apologists before where they're like, well, evolution says we come from nothing. It's like, well, actually not technically. Your religion says we come from nothing. God was created by nothing. He just has always been there and somehow existed. Like, come on, man. Like, you want to talk about a fucking thin white line? That's it there.
He came from the previous universe that existed in the multiverse, which is explained by scientific theory. So in the end, like we have the idea of like fantasy and reality, all of these kinds of things mixing together. And so this is basically an explanation that just essentially says what I was saying earlier is just like people looking for representation, even in their fantasies. They want to see something, maybe their fantasy, and they live in a world or a place in the world that doesn't allow them to be who they want to be. So maybe their fantasy is to be who they truly are. And this is a place where they can. And they're looking for those kinds of things where they can find that release and that kind of escape because of the oppressive nature of some of the places in which the world exists. These can be people from the United States, but it also could be people associating and playing and participating from all over the world in places in the Arabic world, where if you are seen in Saudi Arabia loving and holding hands with another man, your head will be cut from your body. So like there are people who are participating and probably maybe not as vocally, but they're watching this and thinking maybe this is the game, this is the cool thing that I could do, and maybe I could live out my fantasy of who I really want to be, and they're losing that chance because this particular company is just taking a hard stance on something that is obviously regressive and olden, a perspective of olden times. It's essentially it's a sad thing when we think of like the gaming community, but like again, it's another area when we talk about the gaming community being kind of incel in nature, and we hear about the conservative nature and the aggressive nature of a lot of online gaming and stuff. It's an area where you don't expect this to be a problem, but it's there, and we need to confront it. And this is a direct confrontation. We're all realizing what's happening, and what do we do? What do we do to change it? And does the majority of people who play these games say no, that's not okay, and we're gonna change this? And if you're not gonna participate and you're not gonna do what we want, we're not gonna use your products. And so like this is where vote with your dollars. If this guy in this company makes you upset because of what they've been doing, change what you spend your money on. Find something that's inclusive. I don't really know what else to do besides.
Yeah. Well, it's the reason we covered it tonight is the example of me saying, hey, this is a realm I'm part of, board game communities and things like that. And this is not okay. And I have, and this is a confirmation bias type thing, but I have a lot of friends that also, if I were to tell them about this, would be like, no, this is not okay. I have personally called my, local FLG and explained the situation to them and asked them not to support this company at all. Now, I don't think they were honestly supporting them beforehand because they're not a very successful company anymore since Wizard of the Coast bought all the D&D stuff. They don't own the rights to that. So anyway, but you can do things. You can be a part of the change. You can be a part of standing up and getting aggressive and saying, fuck you. No, fuck you. We're done. We're not going to play this. This article here, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this article here actually talks about, and this website's amazing, by the way. If you want really good studies and articles that talk about role-playing things, this is an amazing website. Yeah, this website's awesome. This article specifically here talks about why LGBTQ themes have been absent from role-playing games from this middle 70s to 2005, right? There's reasons for it. And so their aim here is to, like, let's talk about the history. Let's talk about why this is a thing. Let's talk about why keeping gaming fantasy is nothing more than the fucking nerds version of Keep America Great Again. Go fuck yourselves. Get the fuck out. And when we're all done with you, like that black dude said, like, when we're done with you, you could be old white cum stains. There you go. That's what the fuck you can be. Favorite line from that video. I don't know.
Yeah, guys, that was funny.
Yep, he was the top of the hour for the show. With that being said, we should probably get close to wrapping up, and we could go through our quick saves. Maybe that's what we should do. Let's go through our quick saves because I don't know what to tell you, but I'll tell you, I get pissed off by this stuff probably more than I should, but I'm telling you, like, this is important. And it's important if you're in the gaming community to stand up and say, no more. No more. All right. Oh, let's bring our thing back. So earlier, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on my quick save, but earlier we talked about how did China become the biggest winner of COVID? So this article is from FreightWaves, and if you want any logistics studies or anything like that, FreightWaves is the company to follow. You should follow Supply Chain Solutions because technically that's what I have to say. But FreightWaves is an amazing article company, and they'll bring up all sorts of different things related to the logistics industry. But this one affects me. I don't know what it's doing. This one affects me personally because... Oh, they're going to... I don't care. No, not they're going to make me sign up. Well, I'm not going to log in on screen with my password. But essentially, what they're doing is they are telling us that the big issue here is the fact that because China continues to have us purchase stuff from them, they automatically win. That's how this works. And this article actually talks through the statistics and all the different things of why they are winning as a country over what we originally, or what Trump originally wanted. So there you go. On to Hannah's.
Mine isn't, well, I mean, yours wasn't particularly happy either, but mine's even worse. So this is something that could easily just be a Tanner rant moment. So, no, seriously. So, Ohio Republicans are pressing a bill that could decriminalize that could criminalize people who, like those who watched George Floyd die. Essentially, if you record inside of the space that a police officer cannot reach you and control what you're doing, you could potentially be against the police officer's rights.
What? No. How is this even legal?
Scroll down a little bit. So this obviously it says another vague section of the bill makes it a crime too. And if you look at the section, it says without the consent of the law enforcement officer enters a place or subject in the substance into a space around the law enforcement officer that is large enough that the law enforcement officer cannot reach a person outside of the area. So essentially, if you're doing something that the law enforcement officer does not approve of, and you are outside of his reach, you are still infraction of the law and can be against the law and found guilty of some horrible thing. This immediately civil rights and First Amendment advocates are aghast at this measure, and this law is gross and ridiculous. And the worst part about this was, breathe slowly. Coincidentally, the legislation moved forward on the eve of convicted murderer and former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's sentencing hearing. So this was pushed forward in the Ohio Senate, in the Ohio legislature, the day before Derek Chauvin was sentenced. So this is intentional. This is entirely symbolic and intentional. This probably won't pass. But if it does, it's gross and disgusting, and it's a sad, sad day for this stupid state that I live in. But in the end, these are Republicans who are completely and totally comfortable with what happened. In fact, they actually want to make it a crime for you to record these things. Because what have we said multiple times on this show? That the reason we're hearing about this more and dealing with this more is because it's way more easy to record these events that are actually common stance and relatively common inside of our country. We're just seeing it now because everybody has a camera in their pocket, and we didn't see it in the 70s because it was a huge
Nobody
deal
had
to
that.
record
Yep.
video. And so like this right here is absolutely frightening. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
No.
understand what they're doing.
Now, a person in the chat, Lyra, says essentially that the Supreme Court has already ruled against these type of things. So, this will only affect your state, unfortunately.
I know. Well,
Um,
that's if it goes through to the Supreme Court. But once again, we see this with the Supreme Court and the constant annihilation or the constant attacks towards the abortion rights and whatever. It's like the conservatives and Republicans will constantly bash at the wall to see if anything chips away and chips away and chips away. And this is another example of a place where conservatives have no regard to just chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping until finally they get through. And they recently thought they had with the abortion rules and things that they were looking at because of the way that the current stack up in the Supreme Court is. And so like if you chip away and you play the game, eventually you can win. And I swear to you, man, if we don't look at police oversight and adjustment in the near future, like these kinds of things, if you throw enough of these at the wall, something's going to stick. It's the same thing with the abortion stuff. If you throw enough of them at the wall, something will stick. Like vigilance and determination is just one of those things that the conservatives and the people who want to support these kinds of legislations, they will do it until the day they die, into their last breath. And that kind of determination also has to be on the other side. And I don't see it coming from the other side, which is it's frustrating because I don't know if we have it in us. Like you and I, we do. We can fight this until our last breath. But I don't know if the general populace and the centrist populace and the Democratic Party will fight this until the bitter end. I would like to think they would, but I don't know.
I think in this case they will. I think there's enough momentum. I mean, we didn't really talk about it on the show. Some of it's because I'm so sick of giving Derek Chauvin and fucking racists like him time. But I mean, he got 22 and a half years. He's not. He didn't get a life sentence, and he's going to get time served
minimum to parole. I think it was.
Yeah. He's not going to get a lot of things that I wanted him to get. No, I don't believe in the death penalty at all. So I don't believe in that,
also,
and I don't think that should ever be instituted.
But also, there's like all those guys in New York State that like had like an ounce and a half of weed, and they're not on life imprisonment term. Right
and
like,
and I think we need a lot of reform. But hold on, you're moving the goalposts a little bit here. You know,
I know.
And my bigger issue here is so he got a little bit of what's coming to him. We are seeing a slight change in things. We are seeing some of the issues. The bill, Darth Totes, the bill is specifically saying if you record a police officer in Ohio and they can't touch you or grab you, that it is a crime and you can go to jail for it. If you inhibit or prevent officers from doing their jobs and you don't have consent, you are now in violation of what they're trying to push for as a new amendment. So
Yep.
it essentially 100% violates the Supreme Court ruling. And yeah, you want states' rights. I don't disagree.
Strip it away,
I like states'
strip it
rights, but the
away,
problem
strip it
I
away.
have is that do I need to go own a bunch of guns now so I could take up arms against my state? Because I'm going to tell you, in fucking Michigan, we haven't done very much for Black lives. We haven't. They haven't changed. We elected in fucking Grand Rapids. They just elected a new police chief, right? And he's just as bad. Now, is he a minority? Sure. But it doesn't matter. Is still not actually supporting all the injustices that are happening, not just in our cities, in our state, across the fucking country. And the problem I have is that you need a federal government. You need somebody to uphold a constitution. You need people to enforce large laws across the board, right?
I haven't
Women
seen
should be
big
able.
movements from BLM from this administration. Like they said a lot, we haven't seen a whole lot. Like one of the things we talk about with the big infrastructure bills and stuff is like, oh, that's cool. But what about all this progressive stuff that we voted for you to get you elected? Where are those things at? So like that's one of the things for my quick save was just like I don't know. It's just like it feels like people are working way harder against us than the people on our own side are working, trying to find compromise with the people who would not think twice to stick another crazy person on the Supreme Court if they had
Yeah.
any avenue or strategy to do so.
Yep.
It just feels
And I agree with you. You're right. You said, hey, I shouldn't have brought this article up because it's going to be a Tanner rant. Well, it is because I cannot
I know.
stand this
I
this
know.
law, and I don't care. You recording a video doesn't fucking infringe on what the police are doing. If they're worried you're recording the video, for fuck's sake, you should be worried as an officer what the fuck you're doing. How about that? And Derek Chauvin is a complete example of this. And all those police officers stood around his ass and didn't stop what the fuck they knew was murder. And so, yeah, great. You're going to sit here and say, we should all have states' rights. We should be able to have resisting arrest. We should all have these other things. No, there's absolutely no reason for that. These people need to be held convicted because what's going to happen is we're going to turn this into a civil war of some sorts. You're going to have people on the streets with phones. They're going to have guns too. And the cop, they're going to be like, hey, get the fuck off that guy's thing. And then we're going to have shootouts. That's what's going to happen. You know, you want to put me, and I'll tell you, we saw this the other day. We did. We saw this the other day. We saw a black guy got pulled over in Michigan on the way home. We saw it. And he was in a sports car and everything like that. And we stopped and another car stopped. And it was funny because somebody actually, as we're getting out, you can hear the other driver saying, hey, are you okay, sir? Because they had pulled him out of the car. They're pulling this guy out of the car. And it's like, okay, was he speeding? Yeah. Did he pass us? Yeah. Okay. Does he need to be pulled out of the car because he passed you? No, it's fucking racial profiling. Look, he's in a car that's worth more money than your fucking police car is worth. So don't sit here and tell me that you're doing this because you think he has a weapon or he sells drugs. That's just fucking racist as shit. Come on. Right? And I live in a community and I live in a county that's ultra Republican and has extremely racist incidents that fucking happen all the time. I had employees that were Hispanic, right? And on their way to work in the middle of the afternoon, they would get pulled over. They would literally, like one time I finally told the lady I didn't believe her. I was like, I'm sorry, you've been pulled over 6 times. She brought me a ticket. And I called the cops and they're like, well, yeah, she actually has been pulled over a few times. We're probably not supposed to tell you that. What? You pulled one of my employees. What? Why? Well, we feel she's driving in a car. Does it have license and insurance on it? Yeah. Okay.
Dude,
what are you pulling over for?
I can't remember what the story was. There was a story that I had seen, and there was a guy who had been pulled over 300 times in 5 years or something like that. Just an insane amount of times. He was a minority driving a nice car. That kind of thing happens. And so this is just another example of those kinds of things need to be changed. And we can't sit on our haunches and just say oh, well, we defeated the Trump thing. We're done. No. Actually, that was basically like the minimum effort necessary. There's a lot of work that really needs to be done. We talked about just in the gaming community, we have issues. When it comes to all of the kinds of things that we call our society, there's a bunch of stuff that really, really, really needs work. And people like you and me who are, white and cis, and we don't really feel those kinds of pressures. Like standing out and making a change and giving someone maybe who needs a voice, giving them a platform. Anyone really thinks they have something to say, like that's a place where we can do something. Those kinds of things are amazing. And so like any kind of situation where we can help or whatever, it's awesome. But like it's rare, and you see all these Republicans, and you see all these legislative pushes where they're just like trying to just bludgeon you into a submission, and it's frustrating and it's difficult, and it's like I don't know, it's really a communal thing where we all have to work together, and then herding cats. You talk about it in the atheist communities and then the progressive communities, like we got to find something to coalesce around, and I don't think it's too difficult to coalesce around humanistic and integrity. I really think we can find a good place to go. So like that's something we need to work on in the next election series is just like trying to find a way to get more people involved, because let's say all the people that are frustrated with this gaming stuff, do they vote? Is that a big thing? Like maybe the gaming community is a really awesome place where we can move a bunch of people forward. That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool to see.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up. Thanks you all for joining us tonight. If you would like, we are live every week, Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. I will tell you, next week we will not be live because of the holiday on Monday, but we will do it on Tuesday. So hopefully, if you're all listening or watching this in post production, you can. I didn't say it, Hannah. There you go. We can. We can hang out on Tuesday instead. So if you're listening to this and you actually want to interact with us live, head over to Twitch/Cellar Skeptics, and you can actually follow us right on there. And the Twitch app will alert you when we go live. We found that we like Twitch as a platform environment a little bit better than going live on YouTube. We get more bots on YouTube than we do on Twitch. So we do still upload all our videos to YouTube and to our podcast account. So if you listen to us instead of watching us, you still get the good content within one day. With that being said, thank you all so much for joining us. We will be back next week, Tuesday, only once on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern with more Cellar Skeptics content. Thank you all and have a good night.